in a big moment in the history of Exxon, having closed its Pioneer deal. Let's bring in Exxon Chair and CEO Darren Woods. Darren, good to see you again. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So, just closed that Pioneer deal. What should investors expect from an earnings power standpoint over the next couple of years?
Well, when we were looking at an acquisition, what we talked about was every opportunity has to deliver more value than what either company could do on its own. And what we found with Pioneer is an opportunity to take the technology, the development techniques that we've come up with in unconventional space, take Pioneer's understanding of the resource, the basin, and their acreage, and together put those two companies together, produce more oil at a lower cost, which is good for consumers, good for the economy, and do it in a more environmentally responsible way. We're taking their 2050 net zero pledge and converting it into a 2035 net zero plan. And so good for the U.S. economy, good for U.S. Consumers, good for U.S. energy security, and good for the environment. So a real opportunity to create unique value. We said at the time of the announcement that we would create on an annual $2 billion of synergies once we got up and running. My expectation is we'll do more than that.
You think this is the type of acquisition that causes a re-rating in Exxon stock?
I think it adds to what we believe is the unique value contribution that we can bring to this industry. We have been trying to help people understand that as a company that has an expertise and technology capabilities in transforming hydrogen and carbon molecules, can certainly continue to play an important role in our existing industries. But we've got huge opportunities in developing other materials that society needs that leverages the hydrogen and carbon molecule, that doesn't involve combustion, doesn't involve emissions, and we see a huge opportunity in that space for us.
The Permian Basin's obviously been the big opportunity for Exxon for decades, but you've really been touting the opportunity you see in Guyana. Can you help me understand, when you look at the overall pie, how significant that's going to be as a revenue driver?
So the way people often forget that our industry, the oil and gas production business, is one that continually declines because you've got every barrel you produce is a barrel that's not available tomorrow. And so the challenge in our industry is to continue to go out and find new resources to bring those online in production. And today's challenge is to do that in a low-cost way so that you have low cost of supply, but also do it with low carbon intensity. And so our developments have been very focused on finding those unique resources, bringing our unique capabilities to bear so that we create the best in industry supply source from a cost standpoint and from an emissions standpoint. Guyana is absolutely critical in that. It's critical not only for our company, but I would say it's critical for the people of Guyana. The value that we're bringing to Guyana, its government and its people with the jobs, the economic activity. I mean, their GDP is growing as fastest in the world right now, and this, in part due to this resource that we're developing.
I've heard you talk about low carbon a lot. Low carbon solutions, certainly sort of the big push ahead for Exxon Mobil. Specifically on carbon removal, direct air capture. You've heard that holy grail number, $100 a ton, is where you need to get at to make this an impactful solution. What's the timeline for Exxon on that right now?
Well, I think it's very difficult to put a timeline on a technology breakthrough. What we recognize is we have a suite of technologies that historically have been used for different applications. We're now trying to repurpose those technologies to a much harder, much more important application, recognizing that today the carbon capture technology only works for the highest concentration streams of CO2. So we got to find a way to bring that cost down. The good news is there's a lot of progress made in technology that haven't been applied to this space. And so we're, with our technology organization, looking at new materials, new opportunities to try to bring that cost down. And there are many other companies trying to do the same thing. And so our view is every company should be leaning into its areas of expertise, trying to crack that nut. Once that's solved, whoever solves that, we believe our company is going to play a critical role in deployment, because there are very few companies that have the ability to build large-scale facilities that convert molecules and can do that around the world. We have that capability as well as the technology. So some combination of those things will come together, and we'll keep moving down the path of decarbonizing the world.
How would you grade the regulatory environment under the Biden administration?
How would I grade it?
Grade it in terms of getting done what you need to get done?
So I think the Biden administration has come in and with a very clear objective of reducing emissions and trying to decarbonize society, which is a good thing. I think they've also been very cognizant of the balance that has to be struck between doing that and at the same time continuing to meet the needs of the people, providing reliable and affordable energy. I think the legislation, the IRA legislation that the Biden administration championed is important because it focuses on the objective, which is carbon intensity and reducing carbon intensity. What it's left open is how best to do that. And the value or the importance of that is it allows every company, every sector, all the technology organizations to focus in on how best to achieve that based on their capabilities, their skills, and their set of circumstances. And so it doesn't try to prescribe how to do something. Instead, it focuses on what must be achieved. I think that makes for good policy. That certainly opened the door for us to take the capabilities that we've developed over the last 140 years and apply that to this challenge of reducing emissions. And we think we have a really good opportunity to make a very large reduction in emissions with a very large investment, one that will move the needle.
You've been very vocal a lot more about the efforts that Exxon Mobil is making to reduce emissions. It strikes me as a very cautious approach, and you've talked about being more disciplined, playing into your strengths, returning shareholder value. I wonder where climate science plays into all of it. You were just on a panel with John Podesta, the climate advisor, who said, look, we don't have the time to be moving slowly and cautiously. How do you think about that piece? Because at the end of the day, it is to address what scientists have called the climate crisis.
Well, I think there's I would separate the role of a company from a government. And if you want to dramatically reduce the amount of emissions happening today, you're going to have to abandon the systems, the energy systems that are in place today that are delivering that. That means people around the world are going to have to do without. And the people who are lower on the economic prosperity scale, developing countries, people who are still trying to make their way up the economic ladder, if they don't have affordable, reliable energy, they'll be penalized. That, in my definition, is not a just transition. And so balance is important. I don't think anybody's arguing about the need to reduce. The question is, how can we best achieve that reduction? And frankly, if you go back in time, we've been too narrowly focused on a very small segment of solutions. What we got to do is open the aperture and find every company's and industry's ability to reduce emissions and do it in a constructive way. And so I think the good news is that aperture is starting to open. We do see policymakers around the world recognizing that we're going to need more solutions, not fewer, and allowing those solutions to come in and play a role. I think that's the way we make progress the fastest.
Where is Exxon in 2050?
Well, we're going to still, I suspect, be producing oil and gas, depending on how quickly the world transitions. That may be a smaller part of the portfolio that it is today. But if you look at our core capabilities, the technology capabilities that we have, we can make a lot of other products that meet the needs of society. I'll just give you two very quick examples. We've tasked our technology organization to take the molecules that we're using today in existing applications and make something new that the world needs. So gasoline molecules that go into the gasoline transportation fuel, we've got a technology today that can take those same molecules, make a resin out of them, and replace rebar for construction. It's lighter, lower emissions, and more cost effective and doesn't corrode. So a brand new product to the world made out of gasoline molecules. Likewise, carbon dense streams in our refineries to use that to make carbon materials and to use them in batteries for electrifying cars, or using to make a new process to making carbon fiber. So ways to take these molecules and make new products that society needs in large and growing markets. So my view is we'll continue to leverage those core capabilities of transforming molecules, but the products that we make in 2050 may be very different than the products that we make today, but it'll still be relying on those key core capabilities that, frankly, this business has been built on, our company's been built on.
Well, thank you.
I was going to say, so oil and gas still part of the portfolio in 2050?
I think there's oil and gas that goes into combustion and emissions associated with that, and then there's oil and gas and the hydrocarbon molecules that go into products that people use every day in their lives. And my only point is, we've got to deal with the combustion and more specifically the emissions associated with combustion, but there's huge utility for the hydrogen carbon molecule and the products that society needs. So my view is you're going to continue to see those products. Oil and gas use it as, if nothing else, a feedstock to make products that society needs for modern living.
Thank you for always making time for Yahoo Finance. We appreciate it. Exxon Chair and CEO Darren Woods, enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.